Hi everyone, welcome back to Inner Wellness Talk series. And I have a very special guest today, Shwetabh Verma. He's in India and he's a community mental health leader in India. And I'm very happy to have you, Shwetabh, today. Thank you so much for joining the talk.
Thanks, Manabi. Thanks for having me. I think it's a real pleasure to be invited by an expert like yourself who has been doing so much in mental health space for such a long time, both in Japan and the US. I think the cultural context in mental health is really significant and very, I would say, crucial. And the fact that you've been like doing it in multiple places obviously kind of speaks about the diversity of experiences that you have, especially cultures that are so different. I think US and Japan as cultures are very different. So yeah, lots. I really look up to a lot of your work, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. And so we met during the pandemic. It was 2021. Yeah, and then so Shweta was really like a try to provide a mental health support to the community and the people in India. And then so I really appreciate so you helped me for the community in India. And we talk about the mental health and the culture, so this is a perfect topic for today. So yeah. Sort of like, can you introduce about yourself with everyone, like your career journey?
Yeah. So very quick introduction. My if you look at my academic qualifications, it's pure Czech. I am my bachelor's is in computer science and my master's is in software design, which led me to work with some MNCs. And basically, I was working. Well, I've been working with MNCs. I In the first 4 to 5 years, I worked with the MNCs in my career. That's also when I realized that my key strength lies in working with people, working with communities, being a facilitator rather than being a software engineer. I think it's a great realization. That made me move towards social impact projects, community projects, and then since then I've been doing a lot of community building, social impact, and that is something that we are definitely that I'm definitely more interested in now. And I would say my segue to mental health happens like the key inspiration lies um, in very personal experiences. I would say I've had some very personal experiences. Losing a friend out of the blue is a big one. Um, I lost my best friend to a road accident, and I suffered a lot for months without knowing that I was suffering because of primarily because of the unawareness that we have in the city, not in the city, in the country and the society, and so that's like a big blow. And then I see so much. Unfortunately, in India, um, we don't have a lot of regulations around. I would say behavioral, I would say, impact of our actions. And I think it's the same in the US. Some part of the European Union has kind of addressed it, but unfortunately, there isn't much support. So right now we work with people in the age group of 18 to 35. And two of the biggest challenges that they face are relationships of all forms and the workplace challenges. So talking about workplace challenges, most of it is already being solved, and there are more than enough solutions in the market, like finding a job, choosing the right career, finding a mentor, doing like starting a business, all of those. There's more than enough. One of the areas where there is very little support um, around the workplace is your mental health. Like, how does your work impact your mental health? How are like how does the behavior of people across the workplace that you where you work impact you? All of those things are very untouched and very, I would say, uh, it's an area that's very less explored, and I think it needs a lot of attention. So yeah, that's those are like the two. So I've had a very personal experience of losing a friend. Then I have had a very bad experience working with a client where I faced a lot of harassment and bullying and abusive behavior, um, which probably might not. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not sure if it's legally if it's legal or illegal, but we understand the fabric of social legal structures as like if you really evaluate the fabric of social legal structures, there are enough things which are ethically and morally corrupt but legally correct. So a lot of those loopholes get used by people who would want to kind of probably use the tricks on you in order to get what they want, although it might not be the most ethical or moral way to get it. So that is something that kind of comes in the way of a lot of young professionals who do not know how to deal with it. So yeah, those are like the primary areas. So I think I have kind of been able to communicate my core inspiration that I have, but then yeah, those are like the primary areas that we are trying to work in as of now. But we are open towards all topics related to people in the age group of 18 to 35. So yeah, that's something that is something that I'm super pumped up and excited about. And we always follow up. Yeah, to give you some context about the Indian ecosystem in the mental health space, the because of the population, the mental health, I would say, the numbers of mental health experts and the available services are incredibly low. We have some 30 psychiatrists, 7 nurses, uh, 7 psychologists and 12 social workers uh, around. Like, I think the numbers might have changed a little bit, but it hasn't changed a lot in the last 3 to 5 years since we have been working on this. So those are the numbers per 10 million Indian, which is one of the worst across the globe. Which also means that we cannot solve the crisis. We cannot solve the crisis reactively. We need to have proactive approach, and community is the only way to kind of do something at a population scale. So yeah, our approach is proactive, community-led initiatives and engagements that address the concerns for this particular age group. So yeah, we'll get into details as we move ahead, but that's pretty much, I think, good to set the context.
I see. Thank you so much. And I see like India has been changing a lot around the mental health, and then still like I try to develop like the system, mental health support system, and then like a regulation. But I mean, I'm very like kind of like a surprise. You really like lead a community to help like each other like try to develop the mental health support system for like many people. And I'm hearing you like it's kind of like a lacking of the professional support in India. So community led mental health is so important for India.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because given the numbers, if you look at the population and the number of mental health experts, it's impossible to solve it reactively. And most of the solution in the market are reactive solutions. And I understand reactive solutions are more business viable because when you provide reactive solution, you make a lot more money than like anyone would pay more for a reactive solution than a proactive solution because proactive solution, a lot of times people treat proactive solution not just in the case of mental health but in all the other scenarios, and in general people would not want to pay as much for the proactive solution because the problem hasn't happened yet, they are not like facing the challenge yet. So I think it's the same with mental health as well. Because like the problem hasn't happened, it's not viable if you look at from a business perspective. Also, like the reason why we have number of psychiatrists are much higher is because it pays well than being a psychologist, right? Although I think on a population scale, being a psychologist, I think being a psychologist might uh, impact more, but it's very difficult to measure that impact and quantify that impact. So that is something that yeah, that is something that I think is very important for us to understand, for us to be able to kind of drive anything that's community led. So yeah, that's our core motivation to go with a community led approach.
See. And I see like you really lead in the community, so it must be a lot of work for you. So like leading those community.
Yeah, so I've been doing communities for a while. I've done it for brands. I've done it commercially as well. And yeah, fortunately, like if you know how to run a community and you actually uh, and if you're actually trying to get the community up and running rather than like a lot of people say that they are building community, but they are actually trying to build a personal brand for themselves or for their company. Uh, in the name of building community, which doesn't work because like that's not what community is for. So technically, if you're building community, it's not that difficult. But if you're using community building as an exercise for your personal branding, then it's very difficult and you have to put in a lot of work because you have to kind of do community building stuff and then you have to do your own personal branding stuff. Then you also have to fool people to make it look like it's like a community thing and not a personal branding thing. So there's a lot of work that way. But then if you're actually doing communities, it is not a lot of work because it's like a lot of people doing like a little bits and pieces. So in our project, there are, even if you want to contribute 1 hour, there is a provision. The contribution model is designed in a way that you can contribute anything from 1 hour to 6 months in the project, right? If you want to work. So I was just at a university yesterday and I was invited as a jury and we were looking at some of the solutions and some of the solutions were around mental health. So we ended up having a discussion on how can some of these students work with us. And thankfully, we have a model that allows them to work with us. So I think having the right contribution models allow more and more people to contribute to the project, and you actually end up not like do everyone does very little, but the impact is a lot because there's so many people contributing.
Yes, yes. And then I think as a you really believe that so even like a one individual person's impact is small, but as a community it will be the big impact. And it's also courageous for you, strength for you to believe that. Because I think
Yeah.
not so many people can believe that, right?
Yeah, I think in India the advantage is population. There are so many people who would want to kind of do certain thing. Like irrespective of what you want to do, you'll find like a big group that resonates with you, which is not the same in places where the population isn't so much. So I think in India population definitely plays a game. Plus, I think the dynamics of the city also come into play because. Like pulling something off in Bangalore is very different from pulling something off in other cities. Like it's very easy to pull. Like if you are trying to do a pilot or if you are trying to do anything new in India, I think Bangalore is the best place to start because even like Mumbai also is good and responsive. So some of these cities are like really like they are the cities to prototype anything that you would like to start. So very recently, like there was a Wellbeing at Workplace conference that I was at on 11th, 10th or 11th of this month, and again it was happening in Mumbai and Bangalore. So because these cities are very responsive and very reactive, and then they really kind of come forward. So even if you're hosting an event for the first time, if you have like a good local partner, it's very much possible to like gather like a certain amount of people together for a particular topic. So yeah, let's do it when you are here, but let's do an event here in India as well.
Wow. So Bangalore is a kind of like a Silicon Valley in the US, right? It's a
Yes.
place for
Yeah.
innovation. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I can, imagine like you leading the project and your business in there. So it's, a lot of innovation over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have been working with many people from different backgrounds, especially like different cultures. And regarding the mental health, like some people from some cultures, so they don't even be aware like they actually need a mental health, or they don't really think about the well-being that much. But I'm
Mm.
wondering about like people in India, like is it kind of similar? So people don't really. aware, like they actually need a mental health, or they are more open to think about the mental health?
Well, I would say so. I think mental health is not a part of our learning curves and growth models. Because if you look at the education system, the Indian education system today, and I'm talking about the education system which was left back by the British after we were colonized for like 200 years. So the ancient Indian system was like a Gurukul system where like a part of your life, you spend a part of life finding who you really are, and once you have done that, you get like you get different gurus, which is like the different mentors at the different stages in life. And first stage is to figure out who you really are and what you really get great at, and the second one is to kind of propagate in that direction. Like once you have found out, right? It's more like finding the purpose and then propagating in that space. So and it was replaced by after we were colonized for I think we were colonized for almost 1,000 years. First 800 years, some roughly 800 years by the Mughals, and then 200 years by the British, and the British completely replaced the education system. So the education system that we have today was set up by the British, and it was not designed to create thinkers or leaders or foster creativity or for the well-being of the people. It was designed on the foundations of conformity, compliance, and obedience to create templatized, high-quality, one-dimensional, cheap labor who will do what they are asked to without asking too many questions. And the idea was to kind of make the whole population utilitarian to the industrial revolution going on in Europe back then. So it was definitely not designed for people to have holistic growth. It was designed to feed the industrial revolution with the right workforce. So that was the motivation to like design this education system. And if you see, there are a lot of topics. There are a lot of as like if I reflect back and see, there are a lot of topics in our education system that have been strategically missed out, and it's not by accident. It's strategically missed out because if you learn about emotions, if you learn about social emotional learning, if you learn about mental health, if you learn about sex education, you develop a lot of control on yourself and you develop a lot of decision making power for yourself, right? Which makes it very difficult for you to follow someone's instructions. While the idea of the system that we have today was like, okay, I have this one skill which I'm really great at. Now you tell me what to do, right? Now, if you want a product like that, you can't really put social emotional learning and mental health and psychology into the education system, because if you do that, then everyone is very self-aware and self-reflective, right? Which makes them good decision makers. So they will then start thinking, what should I do? They will start telling people, what should I be doing? What should you be doing? And the idea was to not have that population, not have that on a population scale. So so most of the people never ever study anything about social emotional learning or people management or mental health space. So there's nothing in the school, there's nothing in the college, there's nothing in the university, there's nothing in the corporate where you're working. Only when you are like some companies, when you're about to become like a people manager, they'll send you for like a 3-day workshop, which is about social emotional regulation, people management, and all of those things, which I think is definitely not enough. And it's more like a checklist than I don't think it actually creates much difference to the person who hasn't had an interaction or experience or hasn't been uh, self-reflective enough on these topics right from the beginning of their lives. So, in short, I think there isn't any focus. I think slightly it's becoming a conversation because I think the younger generation talks about their mental health. They are open about talking about their mental health with openly a little bit, because there's a huge stigma around discussing these topics. So you can like there's a lot of stigma, and we figured out because we are also very community driven and religious or spiritual, you can say. If you go to if you there's a lot of stigma around going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist with a certain problem, right? Because then you are labeled like unstable or mad or whatever people want to call you, crazy maybe. But if you go with the exact same problem to an astrologer or a pundit or a priest or the church, you are absolutely fine and it's absolutely accepted. But if you take the exact same problem and go to a psychiatrist, there's a lot of stigma against it, right? So I think those challenges that we have, I think those are the challenges that exist. So if we look at like from our research, if we had to look at like what are the challenges, and we put it down into like a structure like Maslow's hierarchy, we see the bottom line, the broadest one is unawareness, right? Then on top of that is denial, and on top of that is stigma, and on top of that is all the social barriers, which can be social barrier, situational barrier. So this is like financial barriers. All of those things come there. Then is a layer on top, which is all around misinformation and misdiagnosis that's all over the internet. Like everyone with 10,000 follower has some advice to give you on mental health for some reason, irrespective of whether they are authorized or not, whether they have the knowledge or not, whether they have the license or not, right? Everyone can give that advice, and I think it's same across the world and not just in India. Like if you look at Instagram, like everyone has some advice on mental health, and most of them, like if you're an expert, you would know, right? Uh, uh, I like most um, uh, I just pardon my language, but then I created like this meme which says psychologists say that most of the quotes that starts with psychologists say that is absolute bullshit on the internet, right? Because like you see all sorts of the things being sold to younger generation and younger people, starting with psychologists say that, and no one asked which psychologist, who said this, when, where, no, right? There are a million quotes that start with psychologists say that, and the younger generation would just believe because that's in alignment with the confirmation bias, that's in alignment with, that's an evidence of what you want to be true. So you are inclined to kind of believe into that, right? And because of that, you never go and actually check if a psychologist already actually said it or like someone just cooked it out. I think the problems are many, but this is the kind of hierarchy that we have worked on, and that gives us a lot of clarity in terms of designing the interventions, right? Because the first thing that we attack is unawareness. So we do a lot of events around awareness. We do a lot of events around kind of um, uh, mainly around awareness. And the problem is that the younger population is very influenced by internet, right? So they would see something on the internet and they'll want to believe it because like it's very close to what they want to believe, and they'll not check it, and then they'll start kind of acting accordingly, and then they'll start using as argument in like the story that they want to build. So it honestly it's not a very happy state. It's a sad state, I would say, with respect to mental health and mental well-being. But yeah, we are trying our best to kind of fight it.
Yeah. So I think that, under awareness stage, so, maybe like a US and India, and I'm originally from Japan. So Japan, like, we have a very different mental health support system, but like under awareness, it's a kind of like I see the similarity in like, different places. Yeah. So not just India, as I see the similar thing in Japan, and then some minorities in the US also has that kind of under awareness stage. So, and then, like you said, it's a lot of hierarchy to take it down. So I believe, like, your work must be so challenging. And as a community mental health leader, so you need to speak to your community, even like people are under awareness. People say, we don't need that, or there's a very strong stigma in the culture. But
Yeah.
as a community mental health leader, how you can talk with the community, how you can help them, like maybe they kind of like, try to have more awareness or thinking about more like a community support. So how you actually talk with the community.
Yeah, so I think it's very important to create safe spaces where people feel safe enough to like discuss topics, because most of these topics are very personal, very private, and people really are vulnerable when they put forward these things. So one of the things that we are trying to do is designing those safe spaces, and and as a result, what is happening is, for example, I'll give you an example of an event that we do, and it is around relationships and romantic relationships, because romantic relationships are a big taboo to talk about. It's not very, I would say, it's slightly getting better. I would say people are kind of becoming more open-minded towards relationships, but then most of the people who are in a relationship would secretly be in a relationship. Like it will not be a very open relationship unless they are married. So most of the people would be in like secretly in relationship, especially like 15 years onwards. And the point is, the challenge is that there's not enough. Like obviously you like, very few people discuss about this with their parents or at home. Very few people, you can discuss it with your friends, but they are in the same stage and then they don't know much, right? A lot of people can't afford to kind of have like a relationship advisor when they are like 15, 16, 17, because they can't afford it, right? Something like a relationship counselor. So I think there's a huge challenge around this. So one of the things that one of the events that we host is an open mic, which is called Love, Dates, and Dhoka, which means love, dates, and dhoka is like betrayal. It's like a Hindi word for betrayal. So what we did was we hosted this event where people can come and talk about, under this theme, they can just open up and take the stage and talk about. So they can present a song, they can do a poetry, they can like talk about their breakup, right? They can do a comedy set. So there are people who have done things, like there are people who have done a lot of like things around these. So we have hosted an event, and one of the events I remember, someone came and spoke about their breakup, right? And this person is like very sad about something that happened, and then he was like, why does this happen, why did this happen to me, and blah blah blah. And then he literally vented out and then ranted around a lot on these topics. And then and then later on, after the event was over, he told me, he came up to me and he told me that I have never found a platform to kind of talk about it. I don't have anyone in my life who would like listen to me without judging. And the platform is very open. So when you're talking, no one judges, no one questions, no advice, no gyan, no knowledge sessions, just listening, right? There's an audience that is just listening. So this person spoke about it. Obviously, that person took a lot of time than how much was allowed, and we were like accommodative of that. And then later on, the person said that I never got a closure because I was never able to discuss it with someone. And I used to have these text messages that I used to kind of just go back and read it over and over again. The person that I do not talk to. There's a chat with the person that he doesn't talk to anymore. And he said after this event, I was able to like delete the whole chat and then get over it. So now qualitatively, this is like a big jump in that person's emotional journey, in that person's social emotional growth. It's a big jump, but it's very qualitative and it's very difficult to quantify the kind of difference that this space creates. But then it does create, and I think more and more spaces like this will allow people to talk around these topics. So I think another such topic is death, right? So because I have faced like two accidental death, even my dad passed away very suddenly or out of the blue. So we do not know what to do, right? We do not know how to process it, and we never ever ever. It's never ever ever discussed unless it happens to you, right? So imagine like learning about an accident only after it has happened to you. It can be so like disastrous, right? So that is something, like an analogy would be that you have a road accident and you don't even know what first aid is, right? You don't even know that there's something called as hospital that you can go to, right? So things like that, I think it's that kind of a situation with the mental health, but we are trying to create these safe spaces where people talk to each other, and that conversation, owing to that place being a safe space itself, is kind of a solution, where you don't technically need an expert. When we do listening circles or sharing circles, we'll definitely have experts, but we also have designed where the community itself is like becomes like a peer support group for each other, rather than like needing an expert and going to an expert. Just sharing without any judgment, without any advice, without any feedback, just sharing and listening. So we have been able to create those spaces, and I think that is something that's working in our favor. So yeah, we plan to do more and more of those events. So I'll be posting about those events. I'll send you some of the snippets of those events. So yeah, and yeah, let's do one of those when you're here.
Yes. And thank you so much for sharing that. So I really appreciate like you provide a safe space for the community and that you supporting like people's emotional journey. And I
Yeah,
really appreciate you mentioned about the kind of like a peer support group, like with a professional, because sometimes
yeah,
like people believe like, oh, we need a professional, but it's community can totally, we can read that kind of like, emotional safe place for more people in the community. And I really love your idea, like you kind of design that kind of safe place for, many people in India. So I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of people want to create that kind of community, but sometimes people don't really know sure how to do because people kind of like adapt themselves. Like I'm not the clinician, so I cannot do that. But yeah, so I think everybody can kind of see what you're doing in India, and then so we can learn a lot from there. So thank you so much for sharing. Yes. So as a
yeah.
community mental health leader, so what's the challenging and the rewarding to support the community? Because you're, coming from different background, more business background, and the more,
Yeah,
community mental health these as well. What's the challenging and
yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to give like a very quick disclaimer, which I should have given in the beginning, but I'd like to give it now. So I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, or neuroscientist, or any kind of expert in the mental health in the mental health area. I'm more of a community person. So I draw my inspiration from the amazing stuff some of the communities have done, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction when I see there are certain problems and challenges that can only and only be solved by building a community, right? You cannot solve it because the system is designed in a way where like solving the problem creates some kind of an unrest in the system and destabilizes the system, right? So the system will never go ahead and solve a problem that destabilizes it. So even the problem is a part of the system that is kind of helping it run. So I think only when a certain volume of people want the change, it happens. And I love to see when a community, like it gives me a lot of personal satisfaction when a community is able to kind of achieve something that has a huge social value. I think that's where my that's where I think I feel very purposeful. It gives me a sense of purpose. Obviously, like if I go back to tech or business, pure tech or pure business, I can definitely make a lot of money, but I don't get that sense of satisfaction, that sense of purpose, which I get when I work with communities. So I think working with communities gives me a lot of sense of purpose and a lot of sense of, I would say, satisfaction and having a purposeful life. I think somehow we were also not taught the value or the significance of having a purpose. Today, you see, even like in on social media, the only reason why trends become trends and the only reason why a topic catches fire is there's a huge population which has not defined a purpose for themselves. They do not know where they are going. That's why they need to latch themselves onto every new trend so that they can have that sense of purpose and sense of importance. It's like believing in themselves. So because they have not defined sense of a very strong purpose for themselves, because they have not defined it for themselves, because they have not, I would say, Yeah, because they have not defined it for themselves, because they are not pursuing it, it's very important for them to jump on to this bandwagon effect that happens with every trend. And that's how trends work. The trends, the fuel to trends and anything becoming trendy or anything becoming anything like catching fire on social media, any topic, is is the lack of purpose that people have on a population scale. I think it's very important to embed a sense of purpose in people very young, and our system strategically makes sure that that doesn't happen to you, so that the system can then leverage you as a crowd. Because if every single person has a sense of purpose, they will never latch onto these trends. They will never latch onto these trends. They will never latch onto these uh, uh, isms, right? Like is like everything that ends in ism, right? So I think that is something that we have to kind of address. And I think for me, I have kind of defined that purpose for myself, and I'm trying to do more and more in that space. So that's why working in the community space, I also feel that I've been very lucky to get opportunities that allow me to kind of move from tech to business to communities to design. Like, so there have been, I also feel that I'm very lucky to have those opportunities just land for me, because I know people who would like to switch streams, but it's almost impossible for them to do so. So that is something that I've been trying for a while. Like a lot of people I know have been trying for a while. I have been like I would say fairly successful in that space, but it doesn't work for everyone. So I feel there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of self-reflection, and then there's a lot of luck that has played its role for me to be able to kind of move into this space where I understand that this is what feeds my soul, and this is what gives me a sense of purpose, and that's communities and creating impact with communities. So yeah, that's where I think my strength lies.
I see. Thank you so much. Like I always appreciate and respect the community leader like you. And it's
Thank you.
yeah, it's very beautiful to hear like a sense of purpose because, a lot of people kind of lose a sense of purpose and you kind of
Yeah,
like feel that, through your work in the community. And then I believe that so many people kind of join you, so they kind of want to share the sense of purpose together. And then that's really important for human beings. So I really appreciate so you doing that thing, for the community. And I'm pretty sure like you spreading that energy to the
yeah,
community. So thank you so
yeah.
much.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, one of the things that we are looking for is more and more support from experts. So like I've been talking to you about it. I'm talking to a lot more experts, because the more and more experts kind of come on board and be a part of this, it actually becomes such I would say it makes it more authentic, and we'll want to have like more, have more sessions and more events and more engagements with expert involvement in future, because that makes it I would say more impactful and more tangible for us. So yeah, that is something that we are very actively looking forward to collaborate with.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, as right now, like, we have a lot of like a tech support, like, IT in the world. So it's, easier for us to like connect, outside the country, like crossing the countries, and we can collaborate and then create the, more like things for the community in the world. So yeah, so
Yeah,
it's really very exciting to do that. Well, thank you so
yeah.
much for leading that. Okay.
Thank you.
So, it's almost time right now, but like, do you have like any message for everyone, or if you have any announcement for your work?
Yeah, so we will be officially launching a community, and I would love to kind of have you come on board as a partner, and then maybe you can share it with the people in your network, because we are kind of creating an open platform for anyone and everyone to come on board and like come together and decide on it. So that is something that we are very actively looking forward to and very actively kind of pursuing. So yeah, so I would be sharing more information around this. And one of the things that I would expect you to uh, do is maybe send it out in your network, and we can definitely be like partners, ecosystem partners for that. And yeah, to your viewers, please join our community. Let's get connected on LinkedIn, because that's a place where I am the most active and I find it very familiar. So let's get on LinkedIn and get connected on LinkedIn, and then I'll keep in touch, and I'll keep everyone posted on the kind of things that we are doing, and also send via you, like I'll send an invite to your audience to join our community. So yeah, that's where we are, and that's my closing notes. And thank you so much for having me, Manami. It's always a pleasure to like talk to experts like you. You know, you have been like working across cultures in this space for such a long time. And yeah, I feel very honored and very humbled at the same time to be having this conversation. But yeah, thanks a lot, and let's collab. Let's do stuff together. That is something that I'm super excited for.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate like you sharing a lot of your work and experience with the community in India. Your work is really encouraging everyone, not just India, like all over the world. So people really struggle about the creating the community, leading community. So yeah, your work really, really encouraging everyone. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So Shwetabh has a social media, so I hope like everybody connect with the Shwetabh, and then so hopefully like we can collaborate in the creating the mental health support for all community in the world. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you.